Okay, let's dive right into this explainer on a seriously fascinating, kind of hidden framework operating totally behind the scenes of federal procurement. When we think of government bureaucracy, right, efficiency usually isn't the first word that jumps to mind. But there's actually a foundational system hack here that lets different government branches collaborate, save an unbelievable amount of taxpayer money, and literally slice through miles of red tape. It's called Interagency Acquisition, and honestly, understanding it completely changes how you look at federal buying.
To really wrap our heads around this, we got to start with a deceptively simple question. How does the government actually shop? I mean, picture this. You're running a federal agency and boom, your mission suddenly requires thousands of secure laptops, or maybe a specialized fleet of vehicles. If you had to start from absolute scratch every single time, drafting exhaustive requirements, gathering bids for months, negotiating terms, it would be a total bureaucratic nightmare. The mission would stall out before it even got off the ground. Instead, think of the framework we're exploring today as the ultimate government Costco card. It's a way for agencies to pool their massive resources, share their collective buying power, and basically just skip the agonizing line by using systems someone else already vetted and set up. We're talking about turning a process that takes years into one that takes weeks.
All right, Section 1. What is interagency acquisition?
At its absolute core, an interagency acquisition is just a procedure where an agency needing supplies or services, which we call the requesting agency, gets them from another agency, the servicing agency. Put simply, it's the government helping the government. Instead of going out into the private sector totally alone, the requesting agency looks across the federal landscape and asks, hey, does anyone already have a way to buy this? And the servicing agency steps in to make it happen. Now, you might be wondering, why would a servicing agency bother taking on extra work? Well, it actually builds a really powerful partnership. By running more volume through their established contracts, these servicing agencies justify their own budgets, drive per unit cost down even further, and keep their contracting officers sharp. It's a total win-win where one agency's urgent need meets another's existing infrastructure.
Moving on to Section 2, Direct versus Assisted Acquisitions.
Now, these intra-government setups don't all function exactly the same way. There's actually a pretty sharp contrast in how involved the servicing agency gets, and it breaks down into two distinct transaction types. First up, direct acquisition. This is where the servicing agency is pretty hands-off. They've already done the heavy lifting of setting up an overarching indefinite delivery contract with the vendor. The requesting agency just takes the reins, places their specific order directly against that existing contract, and handles the administration themselves. But on the flip side, we have assisted acquisition. This is much more like a premium concierge service. To use a classic textbook hypothetical, let's say the Department of War needs a massive supply of materials. A completely different, non-Department of War agency actually steps in to award the contract or place the order strictly on their behalf. In this scenario, the servicing agency is highly involved, managing the whole thing from start to finish, so the requesting agency barely has to lift a finger.
So, Section 3, the power of buying together. We've got the mechanics down, but the real magic here is the chain reaction these acquisitions trigger. When agencies stop shopping individually and start leaning on their aggregate buying power, they instantly shift market leverage back to the taxpayer, buying in massive government-wide bulk that guarantees steeply discounted prices. But hey, it's not just about the dollars saved. That bulk purchasing naturally creates a super streamlined procurement process. Since the biggest contracting hurdles are already cleared, all that redundant administrative work just vanishes. You aren't reinventing the wheel every single time you buy something, and that streamlined reality drives unparalleled efficiency and timeliness. Think about it. When a crisis hits, agencies absolutely cannot afford to wait 2 years for a standard contract to clear. They need specialized stuff immediately. Ultimately, this whole sequence culminates in the most critical benefit of all, actually supporting mission accomplishment. By slashing the time spent stuck in the shopping phase, agencies can focus their energy on executing their real jobs for the American public.
Which brings us to Section 4, the rules of the game. Because, let's be real, you can't just have unlimited, unregulated spending flowing between massive federal departments. That's where the Economy Act and FAR 17.5 come in. These establish the strict legal boundaries to keep things responsible. They formally authorize these collaborative agreements, but with a massive, absolutely unyielding condition: the interagency route must genuinely be more economical than contracting directly with a private source. This is the ultimate failsafe. It forces government leaders to do the hard math before taking a shortcut. If an agency runs the numbers and can't definitively prove that using their government Costco card saves money or gives an undeniable economic edge, they are legally barred from using it. They have to go back to the traditional open private market. It basically ensures convenience never overrides fiscal responsibility.
Let's look at how this math and legal authorization actually plays out in a real-world Economy Act scenario. Step 1. Our hypothetical requesting agency, let's say a legacy defense department, determines an urgent need for miles of complex security fencing. Instead of drafting a completely brand new multi-year solicitation, they jump to Step 2. They literally wire their allocated funding directly over to the Department of Interior's National Business Center. Now, this interdepartmental fund transfer is heavily documented and rigorous, but it's totally necessary for Step 3. See, the Department of Interior already holds a massive, active, fully vetted contract for this exact security fencing. By transferring the funds, the Defense Department taps into that pre-negotiated rate. The requesting agency secures its perimeter way faster, Interior maximizes its existing contract, and the taxpayer saves a measurable fortune by avoiding a totally redundant bidding war. Honestly, it's a deeply elegant solution to a massive bureaucratic hurdle.
But, as with literally all things federal, the fine print is where the real danger lies for procurement officers. We have to clearly distinguish exactly when the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or the FAR, dictates the transaction. The FAR legally applies specifically when one agency uses another agency's active contract to get supplies or services. That's the definitive legal trigger. If an order is placed against a contract, the heavy, comprehensive rulebook of the FAR is fully in effect, zero exceptions. However, if the interagency transaction is just a collaborative business arrangement, like, say, one agency using another's testing facility, and it doesn't actually result in a private contract or an external order being placed, the FAR rules do not apply. Getting this distinction wrong, it carries severe compliance risks. Misapplying the FAR or missing it when it's needed can lead to frozen funds, massive audits, and totally stalled missions. It is a jurisdictional tightrope, for sure.
So, interagency acquisitions are undeniably brilliant. They're fast, they're cost-effective, and they keep the massive gears of government turning. But precisely because they operate so quickly and purposely bypass those lengthy open market bidding wars, they're also one of the most highly scrutinized areas in all of federal procurement. It's this constant tightrope walk between aggressive policy and immediate practicality. Because when billions of taxpayer dollars are moving seamlessly between internal agencies at lightning speed, we really have to ask, how do we guarantee that extreme efficiency doesn't outpace essential oversight?